Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Music Den. I'm your host Armando Venditti, and I hope you guys are having a great Saturday. It's a wonderful, almost sunny Saturday morning here in Edmonton. Um, I tried to film this episode last night, late last night, but I got very tired and I realized I did a full taping of this episode, and on the playback, I realized I was making a lot of mistakes. So I've decided to redo this, and hopefully you guys again like what I'm doing with this. And again, I hope you guys are having a great day and all that good stuff, and you're looking after yourselves and one another. Um, in this episode, I'm going to be doing my top 5 albums of Kiss. I have said in other episodes that there are bands that have catalogs that are so big, so vast, that it's kind of difficult to do a proper album ranking on your own from, like, say, album 18 to album 1, from least to best. That's why I usually like doing these episodes with a panel, 1 or 2 more people, which I will be doing in the next few weeks with Bill Schuster and Ryan Gavalier, etc. So I decided, because Kiss has such a huge catalog, and how can I put this? A divisive catalog. Let's put it that way. Some albums people love, some albums people can't stand. I just decided to narrow it down to 5 albums throughout the decades. So my list came together pretty quickly. I ignored the 2000s completely because there really wasn't much in terms of the 2000s that I really could take, honestly. And the 80s, with the exception of maybe 1 year that I've chosen, the albums were not the best. The 70s, has to be said, the 70s are the Kiss decade for albums that were released. So I did put my list together, and I'm going to give it to you. And again, please put your comments down below, and let me know what you think once you've seen this. So, coming in at number 5, and if you hear me coughing, I have my coffee right next to me here, so I'm going to be able to reach it. So again, coming in at number 5 is Music from the Elder. Released in November of 81. What to say about this album? Quite a bit, actually. This album came out at a point in Kiss's career where they were basically lost. They didn't know what they were doing. They had released Dynasty and had a massive hit with I Was Made for Loving You. And then they released Unmasked, which tanked in the States, but was big in Europe and Australia. Both albums were produced by Vinnie Poncia. From the information that I read, and the reason why I'm doing this episode too is because I've been watching quite a few Kiss documentaries on YouTube, and there are quite a few of them. But I just got the idea just to do this quickly. So, with the Elder, Music from the Elder, Casablanca Records were pushing Kiss to do another album after Unmasked, because Unmasked was big in Europe, as I said, in Australia. So Polygram, who had bought Casablanca, wanted to capitalize on the success of the album and wanted them to do another one. The band didn't want to do one at all. So eventually they acquiesced at the insistence of Bill O'Coin. They got together with Bob Ezrin. At this time, the band was in a complete state of chaos. Ace Frehley was dealing with drug and alcohol addiction. He was always in a stupor, um, was not happy with the direction of the band, felt pressured by Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley to contribute and to be a part of the group. Now that Peter Criss was gone, his ally, as he saw it, was gone, and he really didn't have much say in what happened in the band, because usually Paul and Gene overrode him in terms of business decisions and musical decisions. So they got together again with with Bob Ezrin, who had produced Destroyer. Gene Simmons, in the meantime, had written a story sitting in the Beverly Hills Hotel, and wrote this generic story about this boy who had been chosen by the Council of the Elders, to become their next warrior against evil. And under their tutelage and guidance, they would teach him how to become an almighty warrior, a champion against evil. Pretty generic. So Bob Ezrin decided, this is a great story. We're going to make an album based on this idea. We're going to tailor the songs lyrically around this story idea. Now, whether this was a good idea or whether this was fueled by his self-admitted addiction to cocaine at the time, who knows? How does the album work? The album, musically, it's stronger than Unmasked, but not by much. It's a heavier album. Yeah, it is a heavier album. There are tracks on there that are good. The Oath, Under the Rose is okay. I, as an anthem, is a good song. And by the way, I do not understand why Bob Ezrin did not want Eric Carr to play drums on I. Sorry. Because when you see him and the band perform the song live on the show Fridays, which was on ABC in the early 80s, it was a knockoff of Saturday Night Live. When you see them perform these songs live, especially he is bashing those drums like crazy. All right. I think maybe Bob Ezrin wanted a more of a swing kind of approach on the arrangement. I have no idea. So I is a good track. The lead-off single in North America was A World Without Heroes, the ballad, which is the second track on side 2. Or, yeah, depending. I believe it is second track on side 2. It is a good song. Co-written with Lou Reed. I mean, it is a good song. The rest of the album, Just a Boy, I don't know. The album is a half-assed attempt at a concept album. And I really don't believe that the band themselves knew what the concept was. Even Gene Simmons, who wrote the story for this. So that's number 5. Coming in at number 4 is an album that I think should have been done in the 80s. It's Revenge. Released in 1992, May of 92. Again, produced by Bob Ezrin. This album is killer. It was a 3-year gap between Hot in the Shade in 89 and Revenge. In the interim, Eric Carr ended up getting sick with cancer and had to go for surgery. He was recovering, but then unfortunately he passed away on November 24th, 1991, the same night that Freddie Mercury died. And unfortunately, the news coverage of his death was overshadowed by Freddie Mercury's death. So I don't think there was enough balance there with regards to giving him proper respect and proper reverence. The album itself, Revenge, again produced by Bob Ezrin. Fantastic album, very heavy, very guttural, very sleazy in terms of the song composition, in terms of the production. Eric Singer was brought in to play drums. The lead-off single, Unholy, written by Gene Simmons and Vinnie Vincent. Yes, he's back in the fold for this album. That has got to be my favorite Kiss song ever. Never mind Bath, never mind Detroit Rock City. This song, Unholy, kicks ass. Unreal. Gene Simmons' vocal performance is the best I've ever heard him do. It is dangerous. It is, again, dirty, sleazy. It is growling. It is menacing. At the end of the track, when he goes up, in terms of when he goes in for the yell at the very end, it literally sounds like his throat is being ripped in two and bleeding. He puts that much passion into it. And Bruce Kulick's guitar, amazing on this album. You know, other singles from the album were Domino, which is another Gene Simmons track, which is great. Just a good, fun track, but heavy hitting nonetheless. Other songs, I Just Wanna, God Gave Rock and Roll to You from the Bill and Ted movie. Great, fantastic. What I like about the album is they do a tribute to Eric Carr at the very end. There's an instrumental called Car Jam, which was recorded in 81 with Eric Carr. And what they did was they found the tapes, they polished them up, remastered them, cleaned them up, and put them on the album as a final track. I think this is a really good album. Heart of Chrome is another good track. Spit is another good track. So I don't know why this album didn't do as good as it should have. It only went gold. But as a start for the 90s, I think this is quite a good album. I don't think it gets the respect and the attention that it deserves at times. But, you know, that's just my opinion. And just a quick footnote, to get Bob Ezrin to produce the album, they wanted to work with him again. Gene Simmons gave him a call and said, you know, you let us down last time. You fucked up. Are you going to do it again? And Bob Ezrin said, no, I won't do it again. I promise you. I'm ready to work with you. I want to work with you. Let's do this. They delivered. I'm sorry. You know, the 90s for Kiss were spotty at best. I mean, they'd released Revenge. They did Kiss Alive 3, which I think it should be a double album. I think all albums should be double albums. I don't go in for this single album, live single disc format. I don't like it. I don't think that you get the full effect of a concert, a beginning, a middle, and an ending with a single disc. But they did that album as a stopgap, and then were working on the Carnival of Souls, and then you know what happened with that. So the 90s for Kiss started off good with Revenge. Can't even say that name. And then it just sort of petered out. Even with the reunion with Peter and Ace, I saw that concert. I had floor seats. It was an amazing show. That notwithstanding, the 90s for Kiss were spotty at times. Coming in at number 3 is Destroyer. Released in 1976. Again, produced by Bob Ezrin. Now, the fact that the Bob Ezrin albums are, you know, 5, 4, and 3 on this list is a pure coincidence. Okay. Bob Ezrin is a fantastic producer, arranger. He has worked with, Pink Floyd. He's worked with Alice Cooper, Lou Reed, all these artists that are fantastic. And he is a fantastic producer. The Destroyer, for a lot of people, was a complete departure for Kiss. Having released the debut Harder Than Hell and Dressed to Kill previous to Alive, and having those albums be basically out and out rock albums, like, meat and potatoes kind of a situation. Destroyer for people was a departure. Okay. And the band were pushed to their limits. Bill O'Coin, when Alive went platinum, or even when it went gold, had said to them, you can make Alive the start of something and build, or you can go back to selling 50 or 60,000 units per album as you were before Alive. So the choice is yours. So the band were hungry for it. They wanted it. Were they ready to have a producer that really wore a whistle around his neck and blew the whistle and said, okay, campers, it's time to go to work? I don't think so. I know that I've heard reports that Ace and Peter were not fans of Bob at all. Of course, this was when the cracks started to show in terms of Ace showing up for recording. But I digress. The album itself, I remember when Beth came out, I was 5 years old. And I remember hearing it on AM radio. It's an amazing track. It's a beautiful ballad, wonderful piano arrangement, wonderful orchestral arrangement to go with it. It is a beautiful song. Was not indicative of what Kiss was doing. It was released as the B-side to Detroit Rock City. Always get that name in the order of the words mixed up. The first single from the album was Flaming Youth, which started off side 2. And it didn't do much, didn't go anywhere. They released Detroit Rock City. It started to get airplay. It did. Radio stations flipped over the single and started playing Beth. When Beth took off, it took off big time. And Kiss had a #1 single, had a platinum selling single. Peter Criss was thrust into the spotlight as the co-songwriter and singer of vocalist on the track. When they would perform the track live, it was done to a backing tape of piano and orchestral arrangement with Peter sitting on a stool in the center of the stage. It was a fantastic break for them. They needed this break. They needed something to propel them, in the stratosphere, and this did it. Other songs of note on the album are King of the Nighttime World, God of Thunder. I've always loved that track. And the album ends off side 1 with Great Expectations. A bit corny, but all right. Side 2, you have Sweet Pain after Flaming Youth. You have Shout It Out Loud, which was sort of like the companion to Rock and Roll All Night. It was all right. It was a good song. And, Do You Love Me at the end. And I should say, technically, that's not the last track. The last track is a little 1 minute, 30-second piece called Rock and Roll Party, where you've got effects of audience going crazy and just people going nuts. So the album originally at first didn't move, but once Beth was released as a single, it took off. it's a bit of a double-edged sword because women started going to the concerts more, and they thought that most of the album was like Beth, and it wasn't. And again, Detroit Rock City in and of itself, including the intro with Gene Reed doing the part of the newscaster and the guy getting in the car going to see Kiss at a concert. All this, that track is classic. I don't care. It is a good song. That's number three. Coming in at number two is Hotter Than Hell. Now, I know what you're thinking. Hotter Than Hell. Um, this album suffers from a muddy sounding production. It really wasn't uh, sonic wise. It really wasn't what the band wanted. It wasn't what Neil Bogart wanted. But the album itself, the tracks on the album, the title track, Parasite, you know, written by Ace Frehley. That track in and of itself is makes the album for me. Going Blind, um, Let Me Go Rock and Roll. I mean, come on, you know, Strange Ways. And again, written by Ace Frehley, but sung by Peter Criss. Um, it didn't do. It did marginally better than the debut, but and even the stories that happened with regards to shooting the album cover, the party that went on, the debauchery that went on in shooting the album cover shot. That stuff is legendary. um I mean, it is. And also, what other I forgot, Watching You is on that album too. That is a fantastic track. You know, that album is good. If you can get past the production flaws, etc., then you're sailing. And it's got to be said, Alive, it's comprised of all of the tracks from the first three albums. You know, that in itself makes that album a classic. Those songs on the album a classic, bar none. So that's number two. Coming in at number one is the debut. Now, also released in 74, this album is iconic from the album cover to the track listing. Strutter, Deuce, Cold Gin, Let Me Know, 100,000 Years. You know, I mean, come on, Love Theme from Kiss. Uh, and the track Love Theme from Kiss started out as a track called Acrobat, which was an instrumental. But what they did was they took one section of Acrobat and just used that and retitled it the Love Theme from Kiss. And on some pressings of the album, they do have the track Kissing Time, which was released as a single. But it really didn't do much. And the band really did not want to release it as a single. Neil Bogart, as a publicity stunt, wanted to have held these. Sorry, he held these kissing contests in these record stores across the U.S. I'm not sure if they did it in Canada or not, but yeah, I mean, it is a good album. The lead off single was Nothing to Lose from the album. Again, the first three albums sold marginally well. I mean, 50, 60,000 units each. The problem was with these albums, they could not capture in the studio the sound that they created live. And the music, according to people on the albums, although the songs were good, there was a bit of muscle missing from the overall performance on the albums. But you know what? These albums are classics for a reason. So there you go. That's my list. So hopefully you like this list, and please down below, down there, please leave your comments. Let me know what you think. Do you like Kiss? Have you ever liked Kiss? Do you like this list? And let me know what your list is down below, and we can go from there. I mean, that's the purpose of these videos, is to get a dialogue going, right? So hopefully you guys are having a great day. And again, you're looking after yourselves and one another. And please click like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for any new content that I've got coming up. I was speaking to Bill Schuster chatting via email. We're going to be doing the Pink Floyd ranking in the next few weeks, probably early July. We are also going to be looking at doing, again, ranking of Chilliwack, Joe Jackson, Rush, and Black Sabbath. So please, again, let me know what you think down below. And I'm looking forward to seeing your comments. So for now, I will leave you. Again, have a great day, and I will see you very soon. Bye for now.